socials. Good job, Dana. Look, see, you got this. Got to go do lunch today and had the show done. Promises made, promises kept. President Trump today announcing he is making Social Security great again. Thanks for joining me here on Spin Room. Good to see you. I'm Vanessa Broussard. Speaking from the Oval Office on the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act, President Trump kept good on his promise to protect Social Security for future generations. Take a listen.
It's the 90th anniversary right now of Social Security. So today we celebrate that 90th anniversary of one of the most significant pieces of legislation ever signed into law, the Social Security Act of 1935, and we're going to make it stronger, bigger and better, really doing a job. In the campaign, I made a secret pledge to our seniors that I would always protect Social Security, and under this administration, we're keeping that promise and strengthening Social Security for generations to come. You keep hearing stories that in 6 years, 7 years, Social Security will be gone, and it will be if the Democrats ever get involved because they don't know what they're doing, but it's going to be around a long time with us.
And in a bombshell, President Trump announced that 12.4 million names were on the Social Security database over the age of 120. Remember, he talked about this in his joint address to Congress, that there were people on the list over 200 years old. But now, no taxes, faster service, stronger protections, and tech upgrades for everyone on Social Security. Our Kara Castronova was inside the Oval Office, and she also asked the president about crime in Washington, D.C. Here's his response to phony crime stats.
Concerning reports about crime statistics, police are manipulating crime data to downplay crime in D.C. Will the administration release its own crime statistics to counter their misinformation? And will those individuals who are intentionally misrepresenting crime data and fudging the books, like you said, be penalized for endangering the public?
They are under investigation right now. They are giving us phony crime stats, just like they gave other stats in the financial world, but they're phony crime stats. And Washington, D.C. is at its worst point, and it will soon be at its best point. You're going to have a very safe, you're going to have a crime-free city. I mean, I say that. You're going to have virtually a crime-free city. And these are strong men, but the criminals are strong men and women, but they're strong men. And these are people that don't play games. We're not playing games. These are criminals we're dealing with. And they treated people. They took one of the people that worked for us the other day. You saw the beating, the pounding, 10 against 1. And they pounded the hell out of him. He's lucky to be alive. He's barely, almost killed. And we're not going to have that happen.
Outside the White House trade advisor Peter Navarro stopping by to talk to Lindell TV as well about Big Pharma, saying foreigners are using medicine to blackmail America. Take a listen.
Here is going to be Americans who need medicines. And this question earlier about what do you tell Americans about price? Look, if you can't get the medicines you need because foreigners are controlling that and using it to try to blackmail America, that's an untenable situation.
Navarro says the Trump administration is likely to levy tariffs on pharmaceutical imports, calling it a national security crisis. Over in Virginia, Governor Glenn Youngkin has ordered an investigation into reports that taxpayer money may have been used to fund abortions for students in the state's public schools. Youngkin says he wants to know if any state agencies or school districts violated Virginia law. The governor's office is working with the Attorney General and the state's Inspector General to gather records and interview school officials. This is crazy. Take a look. He says, I'm deeply concerned with the allegations that Fairfax County public school officials arranged for minors to get abortions without parental consent. That is insane and may have misused public funds to pay for them. I'm directing the Virginia State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigation to open a full criminal investigation into the matter immediately. But go back to the top. Without parental consent. Why didn't the parents know? Why did the schools decide that they have control over the children? This is a newly launched investigation, and we'll follow this closely here on Spin Room because schools should not have a say in any child's pregnancy. Again, where were the parents of the student? We hope to get answers on this very soon. And we're continuing to follow the allegations into New York Attorney General Letitia James, accused of turning a blind eye on illegal funds being funneled through a New York bank. President Trump now calling her a disgrace, posting this to his Truth Social account with an article from the Gateway Pundit. He says she is a disgrace. We have been following this here on Spin Room. As we've reported, Letitia is facing accusations that she knew millions of dollars in funds were funneled to terrorist countries and organizations, and she did nothing to stop it. The whistleblower we spoke to, who came on the show, said he saw the transactions. He claims he brought the flagged accounts to bank management and that the bank nor the AG's office investigated. We've reached out to her office for comment. No direct word from them. The bank at the center of the controversy has denied these allegations. Well, last week we talked to you about a big conference over the weekend in Las Vegas. Lots of big names, a lot of political A-listers were there. Mike Lindell was a speaker with a message of vindication for the audience. We now have a clip of his speech, and we're going to bring you that speech today. Here's Mike Lindell from Las Vegas.
Thank you, everybody. God bless you. I'm going to kind of do this in reverse. I'm going to tell you where things are at right now, and then I'm going to do the speech I have with it's called Divine Intervention. I want to tell with, hopefully, after I talk today, it helps someone find the Lord and realize that God's had His hand in everything going on right now, and miracles that led you here, all of us here today. I look at, in my book, What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO, I look at mathematics to prove that God is real. Like this is a 1 in a billion, or the 1 in a million, or this is impossible. When do you add them together and you consider it a miracle? That's where we're all at. And but yeah, I want to tell you, kind of give you an update. About a month and a half ago, you might have seen it in the news, my first case, when they put lawfare against our country. MyPillow was the only company to be sued other than platforms, your Fox Newses of the world, by these machine companies. And all of them so far have settled. Their insurance companies, they settled, or they settled out of fear of going bankrupt. And well, I wouldn't settle. And I told everyone it wouldn't matter if I would borrow money to keep speaking out to get to our elections, get to paper ballots, hand counted. And we went to, we get to Colorado for jury trial there, and I'm just going to fast forward. The last thing that was said to that jury by the criminal attorneys, which I guess I defamed them, saying they're part of the biggest crime the world has ever seen. But, their attorney said to the jury, we all know Mike Lindell and MyPillow, or that Mike Lindell was worth over $50 million at one point, and now he's got a net worth of minus 10 million. True. And he said, well, we're asking the jury for over 60 million. You can give more. And if this bankrupts MyPillow and Mike Lindell, so be it, because we need to send a message to the country that if you speak out with disinformation about our elections, this is how you're going to end up. And he was allowed to say that to the jury. But that jury, even in Colorado, it vindicated that my pillow was found 100% innocent. Which was real important too, because can you imagine anybody speaking out about anything on shows or advertisers, and all of a sudden the host gets sued or the platform gets sued, and you sue all the advertisers? Nobody would advertise anymore. And but the jury did come back. Mike Lindell did nothing malicious, and he believes what he said. But they still put over $2 million verdict there. And then about 3 weeks ago, you might see this in the news. If you Google my name and hit news, you get all the updates. And this was the $5 million challenge that they had used against me, the evidence that I first had in the summer of 21. And I put out a $5 million challenge to anyone that could prove it wasn't from the 2020 election. I'll skip through that. It was all corrupt. It goes to binding arbitration in Minnesota. And they come out in 1 week and they said, Fox News settles with Dominion for $787 million. That was on a Tuesday. The next day on a Wednesday, Mike Lindell, his information is no good. He loses $5 million. And then on Friday, they fire Tucker at Fox News and say, because he was going to start speaking out about the machine. That was all in 1 week to send a message to the country. You better not talk about our machines or these elections, right? Well, I didn't stop there. I appealed it in district court because it was so corrupt what they did in that arbitration. I appealed it, and I lost the appeal. They said they did something wrong in arbitration, but we're not going to overturn it. That was last November. And they would always use this as we're blocked on the ground. Everything we're doing, well, Mike's information is no good. He's no good because, look, he lost this. They would always point to that case. And even the judge let him use that case in Colorado, even though it was under federal appeal. Well, last November, I said, well, what else can we do? And my attorneys go, well, you could go to federal appeals court, but they're not going to overturn. It hasn't happened in 40 years, and the odds are millions to 1 that they would do that. I said, I don't care. The truth is the truth. So we took it to federal court, and 2 weeks ago, the federal court came down. 3 judges said Mike Lindell was right. And they... So thank you. The big news about that is now we can take that $5 million win challenge and bring that back to the court in Colorado, because now we get a new trial because she let him use that even though she wasn't supposed to. A very crooked judge. I don't know if I can say that, but I am. I say what I want. So there is that, and then I'm going to tell you this. So right now, what's going on to secure our elections? I've been working with the president. Obviously, he's coming from the top down. I brought him everything we had for the last 4.5 years. I've been at the White House like 4 times, and then we have teams. It's called the Cause of America, my election crime bill, working in every county and every state in this country. And to work from the ground up and to get rid of these machines that go to paper ballots. Well, I'm telling you right now, we need funds. You can write it down. It's called the LindellOffenseFund.org. The LindellOffenseFund.org. I don't have any money to put in. It's the only thing stopping us from securing our elections. That covers the Cause of America. This doesn't go to my lawsuits. I borrow money for that. I wouldn't expect any of you to help me there, but we need help. This country needs your help. Lindell Offense Fund. We're always on the offense.org. And there you'll see there the countdown we're on to. We're under a countdown that the president's going to be doing, and we're working from the ground up, but we do need help. And the other thing you can do if you can't help are prayers. This is the prayers we need. And also you can go to LindellTV.com. Okay, LindellTV.com. Our great Mayor Rudy Giuliani, he's on there every night. Dr. Maria, I have a show. The president gave us 2. I have a White House correspondent and one at the Capitol. So we're there every afternoon for 3 hours. You want to hear real news? Turn off Fox News. They're not going to report. They're like a weather channel that's not going to report hurricanes or tornadoes, okay? You're not going to hear anything about the past election. The president is putting in a special prosecutor in a team that we've been working on, and that's coming soon. And stuff you've never seen is going to pour out of Washington. All the evidence and stuff from the last few elections. But we need help there. And the other thing you can do, I was asked, the reason I'm telling you all this now, because all of you have asked, how can we help? How can we help? And I want to give the speech I give, I want you to take the message out of there about God. I don't want this to be, and believe me, I'm not a grifter. I'd be the worst grifter that ever walked the planet, believe me. This is every dime goes to help save your country. But also you can go to Vocal, that's the sister, it's owned by LindellTV.com. By the way, we're publicly traded at MLMC, Mike Lindell Media Corp, MLMC. So we're publicly traded now, so you can get involved that way. But Vocal, VOCL, if you get that app, that's like Facebook on steroids. It's the election app. You want to know what's going on in every state, every county? You go there and you can keep your updated and communicate with everyone. A lot of you wanted to get involved with the cause of America. We're in every county in the country, all 3,000 some odd counties. So there you have it with what you can do once you leave here, and at least stay in communication and tell all your friends, go to Lindell TV. You want to keep updated on what's going on. The most important thing, no matter what, is our elections. I promised our president, I said, I promise you, sir. He says, how are we doing on everything about the getting rid of the machines and so on? I said, I promise you, these next 4 years will not be in vain. And I promised it from all of us, because we all have to work hard to get rid of these machines. They need to be gone by not just this fall, but for sure by the turn of the year, because in the primaries, that's where all this stuff goes on in the primaries and these midterms, if they steal them back. And by the way, in 2024, 9 congressmen were stolen and 4 senators, if you want to know the update there. But everybody pointed, Donald Trump won, Mike's vindicated, it's all over. No, this is God's grace that we have right now. We have to get rid of these machines like 132 other countries have done. But now I'm going to go back. So there's the commercial, okay? So now I'm going to tell you, because so many of you, and I haven't done this speech in a long time, before all this election stuff, I was going around the country and telling how I got freed from addiction and found our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and gave my life to him. So I'm going to tell that, I'm going to condense that story, and then I'm going to bring it all the way up to date. So it's, so my story starts in 1968. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old. Now, divorces were not common then. I was put into a new school. I was the only kid from a broken family. And we all know now what broken families have done, with, fatherlessness, all these things. But I lived it. And that manifested, I became I would either be very shy or show off, one of the two. But I remember getting to my 5-year class reunion, and I hadn't done anything with my life yet. I was working 2 jobs, a drive-in movie theater and a grocery store. And I think I was fired at the grocery store by then. But I had, all of them at the 5-year reunion they had advanced, they had went to college, already finished college, started families, advanced in their job. And they were all, they're telling their stories. But I took over that reunion, and I started bragging, hey, I had the mafia at my door. I owed for football bets, and I fell asleep on a motorcycle, crashed it going skydiving, and my parachute didn't open. All these things happened, So they were going, wow. But I got home that night, and I laid in bed, and a deep sadness came over me, and I wanted what they all had. It was just that was the only thing I had to talk about, because I was so hurt inside. And so, I prayed to God. I'm just praying for a family, for something normal. And by that time, I was into addiction. I had gambling, alcohol, cocaine had just started, but God handed it to me on a silver platter. I got married, 4 kids. I was a very functioning addict, and I say in my book, addiction affects everyone, no matter how many forks you eat with. And I've been everywhere from no forks to 4 forks, and everywhere in between. And I see people all the time now that are going, it'll be some high-up politician or something going, Mike, I got addiction problems too. I just can't talk about it, Anyway, but I was always an entrepreneur. It was like a parallel track. And if you put up that first slide, things would manifest. Like here, this, I would do lunch wagons and stuff. I was in a treatment center, and some guy said, what do you used to do? He goes, I used to sell it, have these lunch wagons. We'd open up the side and feed people and go business to business. So I became a lunch wagon guy, right? And then my sister flooded a third-story building with a water bed, and I became a carpet cleaner, okay? So I had all these businesses, but the one business I ended up getting on contract for deed, I was very, one thing, I would see someone just dive into it, but I ended up getting bar. I had a bar for 13 years, and not a good place for an addict, and then by a series of things that happened, I had to sell the bar because I went after the state of Minnesota, and it's a long story. It's in the book, but I stood up for what was right, and I saved this whole industry there, the restaurant and bar industry. But I lost everything I had, and at the time it was just devastating. And I had to sell. I lost all the value overnight. Well, two things happened there. One is I look back now, and that was meant to be. That was a God thing. If that didn't happen, it might still be a functioning addict. And the other thing that happened, everything I fought for 3 years later came true. And they called me up. All these restaurant bar owners called me up and said, "Mike, I know you lost everything, but we thank you for saving us." And I said I would do it again. It was the right thing to do. So even my addiction, it was kind of, there was, like I say, it was almost living two different lives. But then crack cocaine came into the picture. It changed in early 2000, like 2001. And crack cocaine is a little different than cocaine. You're peeking out windows, you're tweaking. It's not a real social drug. And I invented my pillow then in 2004. We'd sit on the deck, my sons and I, tearing different foams and trying everything. I just dove all into that. It took about 10 months. If you pull up that slide, when that got invented, pull up slide number 2. Yeah, here. And then go to slide number 3, too. I had to learn how to sew. I didn't know anything about pillows. I just knew there was a problem, right? And so I invent these pillows. I invent pillows, learn how to sew, and I dive in at that. But remember, I'm addict here, but I put everything into that. And we were turned down everywhere, like the box stores. I walk in, I finally had it invented after 9 months. How many do you want? And they go, I went into a Bed Bath & Beyond, I'll never forget back then. They go, I was so excited. They go, you need to leave, and I'm going, so that's come full circle. Well, and a lot of passion. Then they said, well, Mike, why don't you do a kiosk? I said, how do you spell that? And I didn't know what a kiosk was. Well, I borrowed money to do this kiosk. In 2000, it was the fall of 2005 or 4. But I couldn't be there because I couldn't talk to people. One of the things is that I couldn't be on drugs, but I look back now and I was fear of being rejected. And fear of rejection, you don't get rejected if you don't talk to people. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, when I wrote my book, I realized this fear I had. You talk about public speaking. I couldn't talk to two people next to me. It's straight. I always had to have a crutch of a drug, alcohol, whatever. Well, anyway, so we do this kiosk. I was only there one day. My wife at the time, we had 4 little kids, and we weren't selling anything. And but the day I was there, the one guy comes up and he says, yeah, he's buying this pill. He says, you got a business card? I said, I'm all out. I said, I'm all out. Here. I'm all out. I said, I didn't have business cards. I wrote my number on a piece of paper. And then he goes, so we finished that. We had to borrow money for Christmas presents for the kids. And but about a week after that, remember, I was only there one day. This guy calls me up. The one day I happened to be there, the one number I gave out, and he called me up. He said, are you the guy that invented this pillow here in Minnesota? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, it changed my life. He says, and I run the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show. Would you like a spot in there? I said, okay. I think I gave him a bad check to cover it after the show. Anyway, so we do the show, and I put a table in front of me so I wouldn't have to have people in my face, right? And so I put up guaranteed the most comfortable pillow and did all this stuff, and I was so passionate about the pillow. Well, I sold 18 that day, okay? So I sell these pillows, but here's the thing that happened then and it never happened since. The next day, they all paid to get back in the show. I believe almost every one of them came up to the booth and said, this pillow changed my life. And I'm going, wow, and I felt so good inside. It wasn't about the money. It was my helping people. And I was hooked on that feeling of helping people. So we did shows and fairs for the next, 4 or 5 years. But in a parallel track, we still had the crack cocaine. And we got to the point in 2007, we were literally labeling the pillows in our living room and ended up divorced. Everything fell apart then in 2007 and 8. But I was still, whenever I would do a show, I would be straight, but I just cut the shows back, and it was basically down to just a little dot on the screen of my pillow. And I was downtown Minneapolis, and I've been up for about 14 days. And I had a warrant out for my arrest, which I was found innocent later. But my drug dealers, I came out of the room, and all 3 of my dealers are standing there. They knew each other, but they had never met. And I go, "What are you guys doing?" They go, "You've been up for 14 days. We're cutting you off." And I go, "What is this intervention?" They go, "You call it whatever you want, Mike." And so 2 of them leave. One goes down to get the word out on the street, and the other one sits there. And he goes, "How much crack you have left?" And I show him, and he sits there, and he's gonna wait me out till I run out. Well, about 2:30 in the morning, I'm carpet farming, scraping my pipe, and here he goes. I head down to the streets of Minneapolis because he had fell asleep. I go down the streets of Minneapolis, and I can't get crack anywhere. That's a miracle in itself. Addicts are very resourceful. And they had got the word out, and nobody would sell me crack. And I mean, I'm offering $100 for $5. But I come back upstairs. After an hour defeated, and he looked at me and he goes, "Mike," he goes, "how'd that work out for you?" And I was so upset. And he goes, "Man," he goes, "you've been telling us for years that you're going to quit someday and you're going to come back and help us all out of this addiction world we're in. And we're not going to let you die on us." And he goes, give me your phone." He said, "I'm going to take a picture. You've been telling us you're going to write some book someday." He goes, "You can put this on the cover." Here's the picture he took. Go ahead and put up the next slide. There it is. Okay. So he took that picture, and that was in 2008. Now, I did go to bed. I had a warrant out for my arrest. I'm going to skip over that part. I'm going to tell you that part. So I sleep for 2 days, and I had to get back to Carver, Minnesota. I had to take a chance of getting arrested because if I didn't get something to my brother, my pillow would not be here. I had to get this. Something was due. Had to get it there. So I pull into my hometown in Carver, Minnesota, and we were working out of a little schoolhouse. And once you get in, you can't get back out. And sure enough, I go up, and here's Larry, the town cop. I go, "You can't make this up." He goes by me. I go, "No." I fly up the hill. He chases me up the hill. And I grab the papers. I'm going to run. He's wiggling like Barney Fife for his gun. He goes, "Mike, stop right there." And I turn around and I go, "Larry," that's exactly what I said to him. I said, "Larry, I have to get to my brother. It has something to do with God in the future. Millions of people are going to be affected." And I said, and I don't understand it because I'd had this dream. And Larry, I said, "You're going to arrest me anyway, Larry." And I said, "I'll be found innocent next Monday or next Tuesday. And if I'm not," I said, "I promise you can arrest me anytime, and I promise I'll have cocaine on me." And he looks at me and he goes, "Get your brother." So we get my brother. I get the sheets. And now I'm going to fast forward on that one real quick. 7 years went by the way, on that one. And when I was clean and sober back in the day, and I was doing a parade in Carver, Minnesota. This is years after I was clean, but I hadn't seen Larry the cop in years since that day. And all of a sudden we're ready to run the parade, and I hear "Rrr, rrr," and Larry gets out and he goes, and I go, "Larry," he goes, "Mike," and we go to embrace. He goes, "Do you remember what I did for the people?" Because he's seen it now. And he goes, And he repeated back to me, because he's seen this all unfold over the last years, right? And he goes, I go, do you remember what I said to you, Larry? And he goes, yeah. And he almost recited exactly that it had something to do with God, that I would get this big platform. And he said, and I go, why did you believe me? He goes, you were always so transparent on everything. And he says, in your eyes, you believed it. And said, who am I to screw around with God? So he puts this out there. Well, so anyway, I quit. I ended up quitting on January 16, 2009. And God, I knew that there was this big platform. I knew that God had, we all have big callings on our life. And I knew that day that one day later, that it was like a movie theater, or like where I worked at a drive-in, you had Reel A and Reel B, the second feature. And I knew the second feature of my life would be gone if I waited one more day. Now, I made sure I didn't have any money, so I showed with God all things are possible, this big comeback. But I knew that number two, that the second feature would be, that wouldn't be an option anymore. So that night I said, okay, God, I'll do this platform, but I said I have one desire, or one request. I said, I don't ever want to have the desire for any of the drugs, the cocaine, even cigarettes. I threw it all in one big bundle of addiction. And I woke up in the morning, and it was like something's different. I'm looking there, I go, wow, and it was gone. Okay, I never, ever looked back on that. But I thought that was the day I got saved, but it wasn't, because it was just so different, right? But my sister, I'm living with her, she goes, and I stayed with her that week. I just come out of addiction. She's all worried. She's hiding spoons and baking soda. That's what you all need for crack, right? And I'm going, I'm okay, Cindy, right? And she says, you need to pray for favor. Well, at that time, my pillow, this was completely taken. These guys internally had betrayed me and took all the shows and stuff. And anyway, I called up the one guy where I had my fabric, and I always got credit. And he said, no, they won't give us credit. You need to have $30,000. And I said, well, can I have till next Friday? And then I knew he was in on it too. And anyway, I said, and I had no way to get money, but I remember this guy the week before in a bar that I was at. And he said, yeah, there was a cowboy, his name was Bob, and I said, if you ever need any money, he said, for your pillow thing, he said, I got some Mavericks, this other company in Eden Prairie, if you ever want to check it out, or check them out. And, I remember that, so I drove over there. This is one day out of addiction. Drove over to that bar, and they go, oh, that's Bob. I said, the cowboy hat, he only comes in once a month, but he was already here last week. At that moment in time, he walked through the door, okay? He walks through the door, and I said, Bob, I said, I quit everything yesterday, but I said, do you have those guys? Can you set up a meeting with them? Remember, I needed the next Friday. And he goes, sure. And he called them up on the spot, and he goes, yeah, you can't meet them till next Friday at 10 a.m. Now, I had to have the $30,000 by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But I go, wow, my sister told me about favor, and I said, well, this favor thing's working pretty good. So I just checked it off my list, right? So the next week, now I was so afraid of talking to anyone, member of people, but especially people with ties. I was intimidated, right? So I walk into these guys in Eden Prairie, Minnesota to get this $30,000, and it had to be cash too. I needed cash by 1 o'clock. And I walk in there with a t-shirt on, I had 3 jars of foam and a pillow. And I walk in there, and there's 8 of them. There's a CIEIO, a CEO, a COO, and all these C's. I'm going, and I sit down with them, and I'm telling them my story. I need $30,000. I'm going to do shows and fairs. I used to be a crack addict, and I'm telling this story, and here's how I'm going to pay you back. And their CFO goes, well, when did you quit crack? And I said, last Thursday. and they go, and they 4 of them got up and left and go, where's the cameras? They thought it was a joke. And I said, well, now there's 4 of you. You can all put in, I wanted $30,000. I was going to pay him back 40. I said, you all put in $7,500. And I didn't even blink an eye. I'm just going for it. And so finally they decided to do it. And he goes, well, write up a contract. The one guy goes, he doesn't have anything. So what do we need a contract? I said, I wrote an IOU on a piece of paper. Then they had to go get cash. I couldn't give a check. I said, no, I need cash. And I mean, just the miracle of that story. So I walk out of there with the $30,000 cash to get the fabric, and I never showed him my ID. You know how I know that? I didn't have one. Okay. So that was a mini miracle. I mean, you look back, I'm telling you many miracles that so so I end up doing shows and fairs, getting it back. And then in 2011, I told all my friends and family, I said, if the box stores won't take it, I said, let's all pool our money and do a commercial, an infomercial. Well, I didn't know infomercials don't work. They only work to get into box stores. Well, but I didn't know, so I did it. I would have done it anyway. So we go to film this in August of 2011, and they bring in a real producer from Hollywood, and he's texting the other guy the night. I just wanted to be a friend of mine that we did shows together to do this infomercial, and we're in there doing our lines the night before, and the guy texts the other guy, said, "This is the worst guy I've ever seen. He'll never make it on TV." And I'm literally, the next day I go to film this because it was my idea. We go to film this infomercial, and I was petrified. I see in the crowd. Remember, I couldn't talk in front of people. One line, I'm going, and then it went like this. It took an hour for one line, and finally I said, bring in a table, and I said, I want to just ad-lib it like I did at shows and pretend the people aren't there, So we did this, and it was October 7th of 2011. I was living in my sister's basement. I had 10 employees, my kids, some few neighbor kids, and it went live to the country, and it was 25 days later, we went from 10 employees to 500. We were the #1 infomercial in the world by the end of December. It just exploded. And we took in, but you need to hear the bad part. So I'm going, wow, this is incredible. I called up my buddy. I said, do you realize the ATM doesn't go to the 7th digit? And he goes, I didn't know that, Mike. I'm going, but over the next 6 months, we took in $100 million. But I woke up in May of 2012, and I was $6 million in debt and in tears. In tears. These people that took over, there was betrayal, there was stuff, nothing was tracked, nothing was done right. And at that point, I'll cut through that, but instead of giving up, I took everything and learned from that and pulled it back in-house. Everything. I don't care if we put the call center, the emails, everything, and just siloed everything out and said, what was the problem with this? What was with this? And I've said this in speeches I did later on with the president about the 2020 election. If 2012 hadn't happened with MyPillow would never have gotten this far and gotten to what it was, or what it was before it got destroyed these last few years. Just like the 2020 election, if we didn't have that, that's the most important election in history, period, because of what we learned. But we...
MyPillow.com help Mike Lindell in his fight as he hopes to secure our elections for the future. All right, moms and dads, the alarm clocks are set, breakfast is made, it's time to sit in the school drop-off lines early in the morning. School is back in session. We have a lifestyle expert joining us today with tips on how to get back into the back-to-school routine. That's next. Stay with us here on Spin Room.
With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with AirWaterHealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com.
Our lifestyle has changed. It's the start of a new school year. The lazy days of summer are over. Today we are happy to have best-selling author and leadership coach Laura Stoa with us today. Laura, so good to see you. Thanks for coming on here on Spin Room. You know, the school bells are ringing. It's a rush to get to school on time. After everyone spent all summer sleeping in, we go through it year after year. Any advice for parents who are trying to get back into the groove of things?
Yes, I do. And thank you so much for having me on your show today, Vanessa. I really appreciate us being here and talking about these important issues because they are. And even though it happens every year is different. And so, yeah, I do have tips. So really importantly is that we as parents set the tone at home. So it's important to do a few mindfulness exercises for yourself and practices. I have practices in my book, Own Your Power Within, only 7. And really, if you do a breath practice to start the day, before you even get out of bed, you can do actually 2 or 3 of the practice of the 7 before you even get into the kitchen. And it really sets your tone, you're more calm, you're ready for your day with your kids. And then the second tip really is to offer your kids choices. And so, you know, beforehand, so like we're easing into this. I know school is starting really soon, but we're easing into this. Ask them if they want to wear the blue shirt or the red shirt, if they're little kids. And, you know, if they're older kids, ask them if they want blueberries and walnuts, you know, for some focused food to send to school. And tell the middle schoolers, we're having spaghetti or sandwiches or soup for dinner. Which one sounds good to you? What this does is this empowers them to be a part of the conversation instead of you just always telling them, okay, we have this is what we need to do. So that, you know, it instills confidence and just, you know, makes them feel better, like there's no power struggle going on. They're part of what's going on and they get to have a choice.
Yeah, and it's not like they're being told what they're going to do and what they're going to eat because they're already being told what time they need to go to bed now. And so we want to make it healthy for them too. And you know, you talked about giving them a choice. What other ways can we get back to school and making sure it's healthy? I know a good night's sleep is important. What else can you tell us?
It is, and so I think honestly, having a heart-centered moment at night is really important. And look, if there's a lot of energy, you can start off with dancing to Michael Jackson or something like a dance off and really get the kids going and wound up a little bit before. And then have some herbal teas. I think it's really fun to have a bunch of herbal teas, have them smell them, see which one feels good to them. They're really good for you. And have different honeys. They can taste them with or without honey. Just have a calming moment. And for really little ones, you can have a heart, you know, cut out hearts with construction paper, or you could have some crystals and just, you know, which one calls to you. And because they are really calming and connecting, and they really help to settle the evening. And so I think having a heart-centered moment and just asking what is it that made you smile today? And just keep it simple with a simple question like that. You don't have to fix everything on the first day of school for your kids. Really, truly, this is their journey. And, you know, we're there to create safety and, you know, that feeling of confidence and trust.
Right, and that's great advice because as parents, we want to fix everything on day one, but it may take some time. A lot of anxious kids out there, some kids starting new schools in a new district, a different grade, coping with anxiety. Any advice for that?
Yes. So truly, it starts at home. We set the stage. So that's why I suggest before we as parents even get out of bed, you do the simple practices in my book, Own Your Power Within, because I designed this book to simple, easy, straightforward, but the practices are very powerful and they work. And when you pair them with the visualizations, they give you even more punch. But really talk to our kids. We need to talk to them and let them know that what stressors and anxieties actually are and what it is that they're feeling is normal. These things happen whether it's butterflies or something a little bit stronger. And you want to give them some ways of really mitigating this on their own. And so the first couple of things you can do even before you get out of bed is the breath flow practice that I have in my book. It's specific. It's a specific way of breathing. And then this is even more fun for the kids is body movements. And it's not like running and going to the gym or going to recess. The specific body movements really help to reduce stress, and the kids don't even need that. But if they do a child's pose and then a cat-cow, it can be fun, but it actually regulates their stress level within their energetic system, as does breath work and meditation.
And I think this is all so good, how to keep our kids calm, and it helps the parents as well. Because we see a lot of times they're so busy with school, after school activities, and then they come home, they eat a quick dinner, and then they're on their laptops or their cell phones or social media. And we have to give them that time to really take care of themselves. I think that children, kids, junior high, high school level may not realize that their anxiety or their burnout is taking over their bodies. But if they're going, and then not getting a good night's rest, it can burn them out.
Absolutely, Vanessa. And that's why the patient is so important, and it needs to really start at home because they don't really talk about it in school. We talk about our physical body, but we don't talk about our energetic body, which exists within us. And that is where we feel stuck with the anxiety and the stress and the burnout and the feelings of being lost and all of those things. And if kids don't know about it, they just don't know anything about it, or they just hear the word, I'm so stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed. Rather than knowing what to do about it, then that's where they get lost. So it's important to continue to have the conversations. Let them know, I'm a little bit, I've got butterflies in my stomach about a meeting I have at work, and so I did this breath practice, and I did this standing pose that I saw in this book. Do you want to see? I leave a yoga mat on the floor to remind myself to do a couple of movements because it really helps throughout the day. And so the more we share these things with our kids and let them know these are ways that can help with these feelings that you have. And the whole idea is to bring us and them into a balanced and calm and grounded way of feeling. And the only way to do that really is to go inward. And if you don't know that you can go inward or how to go inward, it makes it a lot more difficult. And that's when the stress takes hold and the anxieties take hold. And then physical things can take hold. And then, you may need to go to the doctor and things like that. And so I'm suggesting that these practices can help along with modern medicine. These are holistic practices, and there's a lot of them to choose from. But I designed my book, Own Your Power Within, specifically for it to be simple for people. And it really does work, Vanessa. These are tried and true practices. The meditations came through, and they work very, like I said, very swiftly and effectively and powerfully for people. So I wanted to share just 7 that I know work. And, because you can look up breath practices, but I know this one works. It's called the 6-5-6-5 breath flow. And you can do it in under 2 minutes. You can give yourself under 5 minutes to do a quick breath practice. And so you were talking about the older kids when sometimes the negatives come in hard and fast. And so you're thinking, oh no, something on my shirt, what am I going to do, And so the other practices I have in my book are positive practices. And so when you're feeling a little bit low or a little bit down, on page 56 of the book, there's 100 positive I am qualities that you actually are. The negatives actually are not you. The truth is that you are these positive qualities, and sometimes we need to remind ourselves of them. Say 3 or 4 of them in the mirror. I am courageous. I am bold. I am loving. Say those 4 things, do the breath practice, do a couple of body movements, and I promise you it sets your energetic system and your physical system in a different way before you go out the door. So that's what I want to share that because it's very important. It's an important conversation for parents to have with their kids so that the kids have these practices that are in their conscious, in their subconscious, to be able to really grab at any time during the day.
Laura, you have a very calming nature about you, which is what makes you great with what you do. It makes me want to go take a yoga class tonight and give some time for myself, which we all need after talking to you. You've mentioned your book. We want people to go purchase it and learn some more from your advice. How can people get a copy of your book?
So you can go on Amazon to get a copy of the book in paperback or Kindle, and this month my book will be out on audiobook. My book also in paperback has 20 QR codes, so if you want to listen to the meditations, which I said are all under 10 minutes, so you were saying it makes you want to go to a yoga class, but you may not have time to go to your yoga class. So if you have your mat out and you just know a few of the body movements that really make a difference for your energetic system, for the stress and everything, you can just do them in under 5 minutes at home. I'm not kidding. And then you'll feel better and start the evening with your kids. I know I have 3 kids, they're all 2 years apart. So I do know what it's like, and at every age.
Yeah.
So yes, you can also find me on Instagram at Laura Stoya Holistic Healing, and feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, message me, and my website is sacredinsightcoaching.com. But lastly, I want to leave this with you though. We are really all here for only a blink of time, Vanessa. And so it's important to understand our energetic system, because by doing that, it creates the space within you to really focus on what matters to you the most. And that's the way we all really want to live, in the way that feels the best to us. And when you create that space and smooth out those anxieties and stressors, you'll see that you have room for yourself again and the things that you really want to do that matter to you and your family.
That's right. Take care of yourself first. So important. And also your family as we start heading back to school with a busy school year. Football season, high school football season starting. The bands are starting and cheerleaders, and it's just going to get really busy. Laura, thanks so much for being here and for all of your advice. We'd love to have you back here on Spin Room and talk more about this. You've been great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm happy to talk to you about any holistic healing modalities you want to talk about. Reiki, sound healing. There's a lot of different options. Forest bathing. There's lots of things that we can do to really mitigate the stresses and anxieties before they get to burnout.
I am all about that. Laura, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Vanessa.
And more to come here on Spin Room, including an update on the tropics. We're continuing to watch the weather. That's next. Stay with us.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysts are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
We're continuing to track the tropics. Look at this new system. Could turn tropical in the next 7 days, moving over the Bay of Campeche right now. South Texas, you need to keep an eye out on this one as it starts moving northwest, it looks like at this point. We're also watching Tropical Storm Erin. Forecasts show Erin becoming a hurricane by Friday, likely reaching Category 3 status by late Saturday or Sunday, making it the first major hurricane of the season. But the good news is it doesn't look like Erin will hit land, may just be a rip current for the East Coast. Still, if you're on the East Coast, be on the lookout for dangerous waters this weekend, as that storm will have some of those outer bands probably hitting the coast. We end the day in prayer today. Here's today's Bible verse of the day coming from the book of Galatians, telling us this: let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Never stop doing good and never give up. And that'll do it for us here on Spin Room. We'll see you right back here, same time, same place tomorrow. And we hope you join us because we have a new segment called Fun Fridays. Having a little fun with news headlines, trending topics. It's going to be a blast. That's starting tomorrow. Make sure you're tuned in for that. In the meantime, Steve Bannon's War Room is next. You're watching Lindell TV.
Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? Well, I recently saw a video he made and I was shocked. That guy's amazing and he's staying active well into his 80s. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change.